Good evening and welcome to episode 20 of Podcast for Dads. My name's Jay, aka Hindu Dad. We are joined by the notorious
Bav,
Love.
what's going on, mate? Sorry, bro, you lost me for a second.
Yeah, I know, a bit out of the blue. And this week our guest is Raj Mistry. How are you, Raj?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right.
How's your week been? Have you enjoyed the cold weather that we've been settled with this week?
Yeah, although it means that I don't go and do any exercise, so I'm steadily getting larger and larger because I'm not putting any less food into my body, but
That's the story of lockdown.
Yeah, who hasn't put
absolutely.
on a few extra pounds? I'm looking to get in some sort of shape this year.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to get to the gym on Monday.
Is
So,
that the plan? Do you know what? That's actually a
yeah,
good, quick topic to judge by. Like, what's your plans for next week once things open out? Is there
the
anything you've
gym,
been
the
waiting for?
pub, squash. Gym, the pub, squash.
Yeah,
In that
And
order.
nice
in
balance.
that order.
What
What
about
are
you,
you
Bob?
in between?
Fresh trim needs to happen.
Yeah, we're
But,
all in
al-
that
but,
boat, mate.
al- but also might not even do it next week because I know there's going to be a mad rush of people that want to get one done. So I might let that rush die down. But definitely hit the pub at some point. Again, queues are going to be ridiculous. Got to try and book something outdoor. And then the weather is not helping at the moment. So hopefully this weather picks up so we can actually go and do something outdoors and get active again, whether that's active in the pub or active walking, one or the other.
Yeah, man, everyone's on the keep fit vibe at the moment. So, Raj, talk to us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the family, a little bit about Mr. Raj Mystery.
Yeah, sure. So Raj Mystery lives in Bushy, like the good Gujarati boy that he is. So yeah, so I mean, I live here. It's my wife. We've been married for about what is it now? 6 years. In July it will be. And our little girl Shreya, who's 4 years old. She's the apple of my eye, as I imagine most other dads would say about their little girls. Yeah, I mean, we've been here ever since she was born, um, and it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing.
In a short,
Everything
like,
from her not letting me sleep as a little one. I mean, she was a crafty little so and so. She taught herself to vomit very early on in our sort of parenting lives. And so when she didn't want to do something, she'd make herself throw up. So when we were trying to get her to sleep on her own at night time through the night, she'd just make
yeah.
herself throw up. And so we'd have no choice but to go into her room and pick her up, and then obviously clean her up, and then she'd end up coming to sleep with us and whatever. And it took it's quite a battle
It's
to get
amazing
her.
how clever they are in it before you even realize and give them
100%.
credit for it.
100%. So yeah, no, it's quite fun. So that was all of that, and then we've been on some amazing holidays together. I mean, she's an incredibly well travelled little girl. I live for travel, so we've really made that a part of our lives and tried not to be scared of long haul flights or anything like that. She's
What
been
was
to
the first
Malaysia.
holiday you guys went on?
Sorry.
What was the first holiday you guys went on?
So we went to Dubai because that was sort of a fairly safe place to go as a first trip. But then at the end of that year, we went to Malaysia, which was pretty immense. Just after she turned one, which was obviously 14 hours on an aeroplane. But she was amazing. She's been to India. She's been to the Caribbean. She's been all over Europe as well. So yeah, she's actually really well travelled. It's quite ridiculous. Um, so yeah, that's amazing. That's probably my favorite thing to do is actually to go away because away from the stress of my day to day job, away from all of the chaos and confusion in the UK. And it's probably throughout lockdown, probably the biggest thing that I have missed is the ability to get on an aeroplane and go somewhere and just not be here in this country, and just to kind of breathe new life into my soul or whatever. I just think it's an amazing thing to do. But it's also probably the best time that I have with her because I can't be
Yeah.
distracted by anything else. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
No, I second that. I think this whole lockdown, I think we've said it a few times, it's the one thing that's kind of got me through this whole, like, what, 12, 13 months that we've had now, is not being able to jump on a flight and just get anywhere. Doesn't matter where it is, whether it's a 2 hour flight or an 8 hour flight, just wanting to get it out of the way and get it done and get out there for a good week, 10 days. and it just keeps you fresh. I think that's one thing that's one thing I'm definitely looking forward to. As soon as that opens up, we're gonna have to book something up ASAP.
Yeah,
Not even that though. Like Reshma keeps saying to me, she was like, "Do you know what? I'm really thankful that we had Jaden when we did, because if we didn't, God knows what we would have done during this whole period of time."
Yeah,
yeah,
true,
yeah,
true.
100%. I mean, I know people. We've got friends of ours who've had children during lockdown, and it's been unbelievably tough, right? Because all of the things that I know my wife did, um, with um, with our little one in terms of classes and all of that sort of stuff. I think it is a real challenge to have to try and navigate that journey, and you're
It
doing
is
it.
when you don't have someone to do that with. Do you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah, absolutely. That's
people that
true.
are on the same experience. Like
Yeah,
Reshma's
yeah,
told me
no,
plenty of times. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I get that.
I was saying, I think I would have opted to be the only person in my office. I would have gone in 5 days a week, and I would be spending so much. Honestly, I would be like, I would actually act like I couldn't do anything else but just go into the office, because I just don't think staying at home would have been the wisest decision made. But with Kaylin here, to be honest, I'm happy staying at home because I get to see new things daily. So I'm like, you know what, not a bad
Yeah.
shout. Why not?
no, for sure,
Definitely.
man.
So Raj, what do you do for a living then on your day-to-day job?
Um, so I work for a company called NTT. So NTT Limited, which is a subsidiary of NTT Group, which is the largest telecoms company in the world. So our claim to fame is, 45% of the world's internet traffic passes through infrastructure that is owned by the company that I work for. So it's a humongous company. I run the global automotive business, and basically what that means is all of the major car manufacturers in the world are clients of ours, and we sell IT infrastructure services. So, networking, cloud, cybersecurity, that sort of stuff, to allow them to operate as a company, to allow them to manufacture in their factories. And then, all of the stuff that's happening now. It's a really exciting industry to be in because cars are obviously, what happened to the mobile phone,
Yeah,
sort of 10,
evolution
12
is
years
so
ago,
fast now.
and the way, yeah, exactly, and the way in which it changed how we exist in the world and what we go to for information and what we engage with. That's now happening with the car. And as cars start to more and more drive themselves, and they just become these sort of cubicles that you are transported in, but where you don't necessarily have to be forward facing in the steering wheel as passengers in the car, but even as the owner of a car, if you choose to own a car, it becomes a really interesting dynamic for passengers and people in there, and all of that from a technology perspective we're trying to enable our clients with. So yeah, I mean, it's hugely exciting. We work with all of the major car brands, so you also get to see the differences between the US manufacturers, the German manufacturers, and the Japanese manufacturers, and how they're going about doing these sorts of things. So yeah, no, hugely interesting. Very, very very busy. COVID
Yeah,
has
I was
been,
gonna say the data
mm,
science of it all must be quite intense.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the auto industry was hit particularly badly by COVID, but they're also coming out of it really strongly. And particularly for my teams in China, I mean, they're having an absolutely booming time because that market has come roaring back. So yeah, so I mean, 2021, 2022, I think are going to be incredibly busy, but incredibly positive years, in terms of what happens around transformation from a digital transformation perspective, and we
Hmm.
happen to be right in the thick of it with our clients, and so that's a really that's a really cool thing to be able
And
to be a part of.
do you have to travel with your job?
Yeah. So I'm in a global role. So as I mentioned, obviously the US is a location that I visit quite a lot, or did. Germany, of course, Asia, particularly China, but also India and Japan. So I'd say, pre-lockdown, I was on a long haul flight every month to either the US or Asia, and I'd
Where
be
was your
also
favorite place
doing
to
at least
visit?
one. Sorry.
Where was your favorite place to visit?
Yeah, so it's going to sound really strange. I mean, I loved going to Tokyo. I mean, I think Japan as a place is incredibly fascinating. But actually, it sounds really random. But Detroit is obviously where General Motors and Ford
Hmm.
are headquartered, and both Detroit and Atlanta in the US, I really do like visiting. I think both cities have just got really unique characters. They've got incredible histories. And actually, I mean, I love New York, of course. I love San Francisco, but actually, when I go to the US, I would almost always have to visit either Detroit or Atlanta, and I love both of those places. The food is incredible. The people are lovely. There's something about Midwestern hospitality in the US which is so that they're so full of generosity and just care. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And my colleagues on the ground, they're amazing people, and they really go out their way to look after me when I'm in town. So
And
I'm missing that a lot from
Yeah, I can imagine you're missing that.
yeah. So there's that, and then yeah, and then I mean all over Asia. I mean even personally, I love going to India all the time. So yeah, for work, if I get a chance to go there for work, I'll jump on that excuse and spend time in Mumbai. So
Why not? Not bad. Not a bad place to be. But in terms of like trips and the length of them, were they like week, 2 weeks, three
mm.
weeks, or and then
No. So typically 1 week.
one?
Very rarely I'd be gone for more than a week. But if you're traveling to Asia, you go on a Saturday so that you're there by Sunday night, so
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
work on a Monday morning. If you're going west, then you'd leave on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, but then you wouldn't be getting back until Friday night, Saturday morning. So it would eat into a little bit of weekend time, which obviously as a dad, and particularly a dad of a young child, that was tough.
But
So
What was it like
how
on
is
your
that,
first
right?
time out?
sorry.
Do you remember what it was like on your first time out?
Yeah, well, my wife will ridicule me, but actually, my first trip was 6 weeks into Australia being born. I was
Oh,
speaking at a conference in the US, but what my wife heard was I was going to Disney World for 4 days because the, the conference happened to be in Orlando, and it was all
brilliant.
you know, but obviously, and then when you're there, you obviously take advantage of what's there. But yeah, 6 weeks into my kids being born, I was at what is it, Universal Studios in Orlando, and obviously doing my work stuff, but then also all of the social stuff that comes with that as well. So yeah, so that was a challenge. But I think my probably the one experience that I remember the most was I had to do a 10-day trip to Australia and Singapore, and then come back to London. And
Yeah.
I remember on the middle weekend, because that was one of the only weekends where I've been away for the whole weekend, where my I FaceTime my home, and my daughter wouldn't look at the iPad screen, as if to say, I know you're not here,
Oh,
and I'm going to punish you for it. So it was quite it was quite weird. Like what that would have
it
been about
hits
eight
you,
or
innit?
9 months old she was, and
Yeah.
and she was already sort of guilt tripping me for not being at home, which I think is extraordinary. So
Yeah. I'm sure we've got all of that to come, B.
Nah, mate, that's what I'm saying. We've been alright because when we do go, well, when I do go back into the office, he's gonna be at an age where he's gonna be at nursery and stuff like that. So he's not gonna be
It's
away
not going
from
to
me for
notice
that
that as
many
much, is it?
hours. Like I had to go
Mm.
in the office the other day, and Priya FaceTime me while I was in the office, and he ran to the phone to see me. Because he's like, hold up, you're normally in front of me. How are you on the phone now? Where have you gone? Like, normally I'm upstairs or something. So he's like, oh, he's normally in the house. And he's looking into the phone. He's like, why are you on the phone? Where you come from? Like, and he's really intrigued to speak to me. And then when I came back, he had like the biggest smile on his face. Like, yes, he's back now.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's because he sees me constantly throughout the day, all day. But I think if it was the other way around, he'll it would be like there's only a couple of hours where he gets to see me at top end, and that's it. So it is quite interesting about how their personalities take to you being away, even for that literally couple of hours. And he's like, "Oh, where's he gone? Why is he not here?" Which is it's good to see as well. You want to see that reaction sometimes, right? And I think that's
Yeah,
one
man.
thing that we don't get that reaction because we are at home. Even if you step outside, they don't know we've gone for that long. But whereas if it's like for the whole day, we actually get that reaction now. So I thought it's good to test it out, just to say, yeah, all right, fine, he still does miss me, and he knows that I was away for a long period. It's got to make sure, right?
You notice your
Uh,
presence wasn't there.
exactly, right. So that's a good thing. I was quite happy with that.
No, definitely, man.
mm,
Um, I had a question. I lost my train of thought. Oh, quick, think of something.
Why do you do this weekly? This is
Because
a
I'm
once a
reading.
week occurrence.
It's my 1 week.
We were talking about travel, being away from kids.
Yeah. So, um, on a lighter note, do you think that you're going to be able to get these business trips back in the near future at all?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I think the world of work has changed so much in the last year. I mean, we as a company, I mean, we had to help migrate our clients from working on site at their offices to working off homes. So working out of
Yeah.
their homes. So to give you an example, like Ford, 30,000 employees, we had to migrate them away from the Dearborn campus to their homes and ensure they had a network connection that was stable enough and they were able to access what they needed to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've then helped them to bring people back in a sort of hybrid fashion. I think the world of work has changed for good in many respects. I think,
Yeah.
yes, there will be, if you live in a country, it kind of it's really up to your employers as to whether or not they want you in 5 days a week. I know some of the investment banks have said they do. I think we will go to some sort of hybrid, 2 days a week in the office, 3 days a week at home. And then when it comes to travel, the same would apply as well, because actually a lot of the things that we used to have to travel for, we're now doing on Zoom or on
Yeah.
Teams or WebEx or whatever. And so actually, I think a lot of our internal meetings where everybody would travel to a location will dramatically reduce.
Mm.
I always think that when you're meeting clients and you're working with clients, there's no real substitute for being there in person, particularly when you're meeting someone for the first time and you're trying to build a relationship. Nothing
Yeah.
will ever substitute meeting someone face to face, shaking their hand, having a chat in the corridor before the
I don't
meeting,
know if
having
that's
a
going to be
meeting.
happening anytime soon.
Yeah. Sorry?
I don't know if that bit's going to be happening anytime soon. The shaking hands with people when you meet them, but we'll
Yeah, no,
see how we all
well,
go.
absolutely. But do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I mean the touching and of each other and whatever aside, I think that there isn't a substitute for meeting people in real life. Particularly when you're trying to build some sort of intimacy when it comes to a relationship, and so I think those sorts of things will continue. How much remains to be seen. I mean, I also think COVID has given a lot of big companies an opportunity to start addressing its carbon footprint problem. I mean, my
Hmm.
company's carbon footprint was atrocious prior to COVID, and then no one flew during COVID, and suddenly we're a much greener company than we were. And I know that particularly in the US and here in Europe, there's going to become such a focus on, impact on the environment that I think that will also start to dictate how much people will fly versus, not.
As you say, I
People
think
didn't used to
because
fly
people
this
have
much.
become more used to like Zoom and things like that, they've become more accustomed to accepting that way of life. Like
Yeah,
some of these meetings that you fly out for are things that now can occur over Zoom with no issue at all. Do you
100%.
know what I mean? So it does take a lot of that out of it. And so,
I
in
mean,
effect, companies will be more cost effective as well. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and there used to be this fallacy that you couldn't do a workshop unless you were all together. For the last
Hmm.
year, we've had no choice but to do a workshop on, in a Zoom environment with breakout rooms and whatever. So, I mean, technology has sped up so much to
Yeah.
allow all of these things to happen that weren't there 18 months ago. So I think, Microsoft and Cisco and, Zoom, I mean, these companies have come out, Google have come out with all of these awesome products that allow you to be much more productive than you previously were. So, yeah.
And
But
now there's a lot more people embracing them.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, look what we're doing. When we've been doing this in person a couple of, 18 months ago,
Absolutely.
right?
100%.
Absolutely. It's the way that we want to get back to at some
Well, I
point. You
was
know what I
going to
mean?
say, yeah,
But
we definitely need
Yeah,
to
that's
get
it.
back to that.
And that's my point. So we want to be together in person. This is just a stopgap.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
of
equally,
course.
if I was in another country, you wouldn't be flying me out for it. We'd just do it like this, right? And so I think that's kind of what's going to apply in the world of work.
If we had the
Yeah.
budget to do it, we'd love to fly people out to join
Yeah.
us. But no, you make a valid point, right? Because like you said, the first interaction with people. But have you guys noticed is it a negative impact, positive? I know we've had no choice but to do things remotely now. But in terms of business as a whole, has it taken like a negative toll on how people take
Perceive
these
it.
perceive these meetings, and it's different, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much easier not to pay attention. So you just switch your video camera off and read your email or read the newspaper or whatever, right? I mean, no one really knows what you're doing when your script camera's off, right? So long as you're,
That's it.
Yeah.
so long as you're kind of half paying attention, so that if you get asked a question, you can kind of see what sort of employee I am. So But if you're paying half attention, then frankly, you don't really know. So I think it's easier for people not to pay attention, for them not to be as present as they should be in a room, or in a dialogue. And therefore, I think in some respects, it's created some inefficiencies because you need to tell people things three, four, five times as opposed to once in person, eyeballing them, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the other side of this, and I've certainly seen it, particularly in our younger team members. I mean, they came to work for our company to belong to a team, to belong to a community, to belong to something, right? And when you're sat, trying to, I mean, I've got a girl in my team who lives, sorry, with one of our competitors. Whenever she needs to have, and she does a lot of financial reporting for us. Whenever she has to talk about anything that's remotely company confidential, she has to do that call from the toilet, from her bathroom, because there's nowhere else in the house where she's far enough away that that guy's out of earshot. So,
Yeah.
it's those sort of practical realities where, you know, it's taken their toll on people. And also, typically, younger members of the workforce, or people who've just come out of uni that are in their 20s, won't live in houses where they can have a study or somewhere
This
that's
is it.
designated for work that's separate from where they live. A lot of them will live in a flat, maybe with their girlfriend or with a flatmate. They're cramped. They're all, it becomes quite, what's the word, sort of suffocating almost. So I think
Confined.
those are the people in particular that have really been sort of saying, certainly in our company, that they would love to go back to the office as soon as they can. And ironically, they're
Mm.
the ones that are probably least affected, as it were, by COVID, in terms of the severe illness and the death. So yeah, I mean, it's been a challenge, but I think for corporates it's very difficult because you know no one really knew what was going on a year ago.
No,
They've
not
only
at all.
sort of worked out now, and even then, it's still everything changes all the time, right? And it's the nature of this virus and the way in which everything changes, every so often. So
This is it. I mean, let's move on to lighter notes from the virus, though. Um, I
sorry,
wanted
yeah.
to. I wanted to play something. So, what we're going to play you is an excerpt out of a project that I worked on for Raj. And rather than talk about it any further, I'm just going to let the clip play and then we can discuss it thereafter. Is that all right with you, boys?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Let's go. So I picked that video on purpose. We were talking the other day, Raj, and you mentioned about how the young girl in that recording was someone that inspired your daughter to learn and sing that song. And I thought that would be a good way to kick off this topic and conversation. In that we've titled the podcast "Inspiring a Generation," and Ragatip is a project that I think we're both very, very fond of. So why don't you do the honors of introducing us to the world of Ragatip and what the project is there for?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, and actually, I mean, we were talking about COVID, so just to bridge quite nicely, if lockdown hadn't happened last year, Ragatip wouldn't exist. So, frankly, for me on a personal level, it's a hugely, sort of positive thing that's happened in my life.
Hmm.
But basically, Ragatip is really it's a collective of creatives. We've got an awful lot of music creatives, visual creatives that have been a part of the journey. We kicked off our first sort of real project last August, which Jack, you're a part of.
Yep.
And the idea of it very much is to try and find a new audience and widen the audience that is engaging with Indian music that isn't necessarily Bollywood music, right? So, I like Bollywood music. It's perfectly pleasing for me to listen to, but I also love spiritual music, folk music, classical music from from India, and I feel like those art forms are probably not as well known about. The audiences for those are starting to shrink. So for me, Ragatip was really about trying to create a new audience that would engage with that, so that the artists that represent those art forms continue to have an audience that they can play to.
Mhm.
So last year's project was all about bringing some musicians together to create some content, and then we had this really lovely idea of fusing spiritual music from the Eastern faith, so really Hinduism, and then from Christianity in the West, um, to create this project called Spiritual Bridges, which is the title of the album that we're now releasing. And really the idea of that was, to promote this kind of message of harmony and unity and so on. And honestly, by pure chance, somebody I approached to be a part of the project, who she just had her little girl, and it wasn't really practical for her to come and spend the day with us
Yeah.
recording that day. But she recommended Adia, who's the young girl that you saw in that video just now. So Adia was 10 years old at the time. She actually was on what is it, the Voice Kids about 12
Yeah.
months ago. So she was on that show and whatever. And Ambika, who recommended it to me, had been vocal coaching her. So she recommended her, and Adia came along, and she had a great time with us. She recorded on a couple of the songs. Um, what I hadn't anticipated was, upon completion of that day, and then creating the video content, and then showing my little girl that video of this 10-year-old girl who's roughly the same size as her, kind of looks a bit like her, sort of sounds a bit like her, singing a Hindu dhun. Um, Shreya just jumped all over it, and I mean, I kid you not, within a week she knew all the words. And
Really.
fast forward to today, and still tonight when went to sleep, and she
Yeah.
went to sleep singing that song. And
It's
for
crazy, isn't it?
me, that was almost like an accidental consequence of
Mm.
Ragatip, in terms of some of that sort of spiritual seed planting that you want to do with young children. My mom has always said, grab them when they're little, because they're
Mm.
more likely to listen to you. If you try and instill spirituality in someone that's had no spirituality up to the age of their teenage years and older, it becomes a lot harder, right? But
Absolutely.
when they're younger, if you want to do it, then now's the time. And by pure coincidence, this has happened, and it's been an incredible journey to watch her just explore her own spirituality in her own sort of kind of innocent 4-year-old way. And really, it was that track that you just played, which has been a really happy kind of it's been a happy consequence of that track having been released. And that
And the thing
track
is,
is now on Spotify as well. And whenever it's on in the car, she's jamming along to it. And through that, she's learned other bhajans. She's learned the Gayatri Mantra and some of these other things. She started at that one, but teaching her
yeah,
some of these other things have become
it's
much,
opened
much
the
more.
door, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's opened the door to a wider
Yeah,
conversation, right? And the thing
exactly.
is,
Exactly.
as someone being present with you in that room on that day, like, it's so far from the objective of what we were thinking about on the day, and when we're in the moment, and when we were there witnessing everyone go through the motions,
Yeah, yeah,
and to see it all come together, and then to have it, like when you told me this the other day, I was really surprised and shocked. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It struck a chord. I was in the room with you. Do you know what I mean? I felt that vibe. It was different. And to be part of projects like that for me is amazing. Do you know what I mean? As a creative, someone behind the lens, and trying to encapsulate a vision that someone else is portraying, you've got a hell of a task on you, because what I might be thinking might be very different to what you're thinking as well. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to leverage in the middle. And I think for the type of restrictions that we had in place on us on the shoot date itself, we did a rather good job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to shoot it on the hottest day of the year last year as well.
Oh,
I mean, it
mate.
was ridiculous. At one point, it was like 44 degrees in that room. It was crazy. But,
I still
but
haven't forgotten
actually,
that completely.
yeah,
So,
but I think you said it right. I mean, there was something very special in the atmosphere that day. And I think what was quite interesting about that day, because we were reflecting on it afterwards, was, I think, COVID had bottled up so much of the creative expression inside these musicians, that for a lot of them, it was the first time they'd had an opportunity to play live and play with other people at the same time in the same place. And
that's
so
it.
almost what you had was like this outpouring of creativity. And as a result, you had this incredible atmosphere in the room. And people were loving it, even though they were melting. They had the most amazing day. And even at the end of it, I mean, a lot of those artists in that video met each other for the first time on that day. They
I
didn't
know,
know each other
it's
before.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely crazy. Like, I'm fortunate because of Kev. Obviously, my business partner, but I've been fortunate to work with a number of those people beforehand. Do you know what I mean? Through
yeah,
the previous years or over the past few years, but like every time you see them get together in a different environment with a new set of musicians, and like you said, they'd never met each other, they hadn't synchronized, they'd not vibed with one another, so they were all learning about how each other reacts and behaves on the day. And to be able to pull it all together like that is just something, amazing to be able to witness.
yeah. No, absolutely. And actually, that's really why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do. In fact, I mean, we had an amazing day a couple of weeks ago where we were invited up to do a collaboration with PRS Guitars. PRS Guitars is one of the biggest guitar companies in the
Yep.
world. And by pure fluke, as a result of one of the songs we recorded on that day, we were invited to do this collaboration, which included the lead guitarist for Jamiroquai. I mean, it was insane. Like, where have we come from in the short time that we've been doing this? It
This is
was,
it.
some random stately tea room in Elstree that we were shooting in last August, and all of a sudden we're shooting at PRS Headline Studios, and it's just ridiculous what's happened. And in that we had the bass player for One Direction being part of it. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? We had this superstar South Indian singer that's a part of it, which has been amazing. So I mean, the Ragatip journey has been a really interesting one.
When you reflect over what you've done in this time period, like what's the one thing that stands out to you the most?
I think for me, genuinely, it's the amount of people that have started to, well, the amount of people that have connected with it and have sort of joined the collective. So for me, the collective is an open tent, right? What we're trying to do is an open church.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be exclusive. So we had a guy recently approach us, Parag. I mean, he's someone that Kevin and I have known for a while, but he takes incredible photographs. And we're like, do you want to be a part of this? He came and spent the day with us photographing artists, and now wants to be at every single one of our recording events because
I mean,
he
I
loved the
saw some of those
experience so
shots
much.
as well, and I've got to say, there's some actual stellar work there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. But I think the number of people that have come, and they're not just Indians, and that's what I really like about it. Like
Yeah.
Ragatip, it's an Indian thing, kind of, but it isn't really as well. Tom Beach is our music director. He's about as white as
Phenomenal.
they come, and but he's incredible. And there's a video that we're going to be releasing shortly. We did a sort of a filmed interview with him where he talks about. I mean, he only came into connection with Indian music, classical music certainly, for the first time last summer when he
Yeah.
started trying to arrange the stuff that we did on the day that you were there. And his learning and his understanding and his growth as an artist as a result of this stuff that we've done together. I mean, he talks about it very openly, that it's been an incredible experience for him. That's the point of Ragatip, right? The more people we can bring in, we're planning some more content that we want to shoot in May. In fact, I've been, on the phone with some other artists today. And what's really nice now is, I pinged somebody on Instagram this morning. She's a violinist, um, you know, incredibly sort of accomplished performer. And I said, would you be up for a collaboration? And
Yeah.
within, an hour, she'd responded saying, hell yeah. And we had a chat this evening and she's on board. And it's just really nice to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
because I think, and I say this hopefully without ego, but I think we stand for a certain quality, but we also, because we're trying to be as inclusive as possible, people want to be a part of it. We've got, I mean, I'm probably sharing this a bit prematurely, but we've got a song releasing next month that's part of a campaign that the NHS are running to raise awareness about organ donation. And we've done a cover of Mariah Carey's Hero. And we had a whole heap of British Asian artists jump on the bandwagon and sort of sing for a portion of that song and whatever. It's been a really cool thing to bring together and sort of fit as quite a complex jigsaw. But it's again, it's just nice that people want to be involved, and
Would
it's a
you have
nice thing
thought
for them to
back?
have an outlet when they're not allowed to gig.
Yeah. Would you have thought back, what, call it a year, 18 months ago, when you first started contemplating about Ragatip as a project? Would you have even envisaged going half this way?
Not in this time frame.
Yeah.
But equally, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think I have expectations. I didn't really have any like I just wanted to do this, right? And I think I have the lucky sort of advantage that I'm not dependent on this to pay my bills. So
Hmm.
it can take as long as it needs to take, so long as it stays good. It can take as
Yeah,
long as it needs to take to turn into what it needs to turn into. And because I'm not putting pressure on it to make money out of it, so long as everybody gets paid, which we have a way to fund that, but as long
yeah,
as but we're not trying to profit out of it at the moment. It's purely about
the
allowing these
passion.
artists an
Yeah,
opportunity to perform and collaborate and work with people they probably wouldn't work with otherwise.
yeah. I mean, for me, one thing that I loved about it all was that everyone that was there with the passion. Do you know what I mean? Like every single one of us. And I think it's probably a good time to play the next video set that I had prepared for this part of the show. And I always talk about Kevin. I've never actually shown him on the show, and I'm not sure he knows that I'm going to do this. But here you are, Kev. So this is my business partner, Mr. Kev Tanner, and we've got another video following him. But these are people that have participated in the project, and from what they say, it's very passionate, and I want you guys to experience and hear what they've had to say about what they've experienced within the Ragatip project. So here we go.
Like when Picasso was first painting art, do you think he actually looked at it and went, that is the best thing ever? Probably not. He's probably like, oh, there's this and there's that. But who cares? And fundamentally what we're doing here is art. We've got artistic musicians, we've got an artistic creative director, we've got artistic everyone around the room. Everyone's creative in their own right, so let the creativity flow and let the world decide whether they like it or not. And hopefully everyone will, and they'll share this content and make it into something worth following. Therefore, we can provide this same format on numerous occasions so that more and more people can benefit, but also appreciate from it.
When I listened to the track the first time, I was overwhelmed. When I did hear it, I cried. I remember speaking to Raj when I got the call to say we're going to name the track, and he was like, how did this make you feel? And I said to him, I said, when I listened to it, I felt happy. And he started laughing, and I was like, why are you laughing? He goes, yeah, because we're going to name this song Marakatma, Joy to the World. Name it Joy. So for everyone that's listening to this track, please just enjoy it. Just enjoy every single second that we have helped to create this beautiful 3-4 minutes.
So, Bav, this is among some of the first few occasions where you may have seen some of those samples. And I'm unsure whether you may have got to see some of the other stuff on YouTube.
I watched a couple. That was one of the ones I did actually watch. I think I watched another one as well.
So, what's your impressions, man?
But I was blown away by it, if I'm really honest. The concept is amazing. What was coming out, what I was hearing was just, it was something I've never come across before. Honestly, kudos to you guys for doing it. It really, really is something that caught my eye, caught my ears, and actually, I can see it taking off to something where, everyone will listen to it and be able to relate to it in some shape or form. There's a lot of music that we all listen to on a day-to-day basis, but not much of it really, gets your heart and mind moving in that kind of way. And this was something where I listened to and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Seriously, keep up the really good work. I'm looking forward to hearing a lot more as the weeks go on.
No, I appreciate that. I'll tell you something. I just wanted to make. I mean, it's interesting because you brought up Kev and you brought up Drew, and actually, I mean, Kev is a very special guy, and he actually his first sort of foray into anything artistic was as the sound engineer for my first band. When he was 17 years old. So I've known him since the very start of his journey in this space. And he's just a phenomenal person. And, he's he's given so much to what Ragatip is, and continues to. Even today we had about 19 different WhatsApp conversations about God knows what. I mean it's and I'm constantly harassing him, but it's extraordinary. But the other thing I just wanted to share, I mean, you wouldn't have seen it there, but Dripti, who's the singer there, she's a nurse, right, for the hospital, for a hospital in Birmingham, and she was actually working on a COVID ward last year, and we recorded an interview which you can see on the YouTube channel. But in that interview, she talks about almost giving up music because of how much COVID, sort of affected her. And when she came to studio to record this, it was one of the first musical things she was doing after having worked on, in such a sort of tormented kind of environment. And the again, that sort of joy that it brought her, you can hear that in the voice and in the way in which she's expressed her musicality. I mean, I think it's really lovely. And I said to somebody the other day, I said we're really lucky. I mean, excuse my language, but we've basically not had any dicks be involved in the Ragatip project so far. Like everyone's just been really nice, really cool, like down to earth, give what they've got to give, just be a part of it. Very minimal kind of I'm a diva, look how great I am, whatever. It's just grounded, authentic, really nice people that have come together and created something really quite special. And I think that's maybe why some of the music touches people the way it does, because the people that are representing their art are doing it in quite a humble way, which I think is really important.
So if there was one thing that you would say to somebody who hasn't looked at your channel just yet, first of all, what would be the thing that you say to them? And secondly, where can they find that information?
Well, look at it, right? I mean, we've got great content, and as I said, look, we're not trying to make money. So by engaging with whatever we have put out there, all you're doing is effectively expressing support for the artists that are featured in all of the digital content we've created. It's available on all of the standard platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Ragatip music. That's all you have to go and search for. But when you find that content, you'll see. I mean, we have, a couple of different types of content. So we're very passionate about the music, which is the hero product, as it were. It's the hero feature of what we're trying to put out there. But the stories of the artists behind the music is as important to us, and we're going out of our way to try and make sure we capture that in as succinct a way as possible, so that people get the essence of so that a person watching gets the essence as much as they can of the person that they're hearing or watching. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing, which we're starting to just build out some content on, is a little bit of an educational series around, what are some of these instruments, how do they work, what is the differences between East and West when it comes to musicality, some of the questions that people will have, so that hopefully as we get to a position where we can do live gigs and people come and watch us and there's a sitar on stage, they actually got a resource that they can go to that gives them a little bit of information about what that's all about. You don't have to be a connoisseur to know what that instrument is and why it sounds the way it sounds and why does it touch me the way it touches me. And so
not even that, like for me, I remember on the day of record, and it was that on the English version they play a number of bars, and on the Indian instrument it was a different number of bars, and the amount of ag that caused just to try and get those in sync to match up. Obviously for me, I'm not from that world. It was completely new to me. So, as we go into these shoots, we learn, we grow wiser. But for me, that was an experience in itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so Tom, who's our music director, I mean, I think he'll sort of confirm that he felt somewhat terrorized by this kind of weird sort of. So in Western music, a lot of music is simply 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Most songs will just follow 1, 2, 3, 4. You're tapping your foot, you're clapping your hands, clicking your fingers, whatever it is, but you'll be going to that rhythm cycle. And we switched that up with a beat that was in 7/8, which in Western music is largely unheard of. I mean, they do it. If you're playing jazz, it's probably more common, but in kind of standard Western music, it doesn't really exist as a time pattern. But it's pretty common in Indian music. and he just couldn't get his head around it on the day, and it was just stressing him out beyond belief. And it was really funny just to watch that all kind of
In
unfold.
part, it was hilarious, but in part,
Yeah.
it was like, Tom, you really need to get through this right now.
Yeah, hurry up. It's 43 degrees in here. We haven't got that much time to wait. Well, you work out what the timing is. So
We're all melting in there. No, it's hilarious. It was fun, like I say. Go on, B.
Well, I was going to say, like, what's the long-term kind of goal here for Ragatip and yourself? What's the kind of what you guys looking to achieve? Where you looking to take it to? Where do you see yourself?
And what's the next step?
Yeah, next step.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm very passionate about the nepotism that exists in the music industry, and the fact that if you're not born to the right family, if you don't come from lots of money, if you're not willing to compromise your values and your morals and your principles, particularly if you're a woman, then frankly your ability to be successful is actually, quite small. You don't get much of a chance because nepotism is so prevalent. The idea that we have longer term for Ragatip is it becomes a platform that basically democratizes how talent gets exposed. So right now we're very much focused on growing our audience. The more people that engage with us digitally, the more people that come to our live events, etc., the better.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people that are engaging with the podcast today, my simple request is please, spread the word, because the bigger the audience, the easier it becomes for talent that wouldn't normally get a chance to have an opportunity to flourish. And we're not trying to create the next Ed Sheeran and the next Shreya Ghoshal and the next, sort of superstars of the music industry. Lots of people in the music industry are very happy just to have enough money to live a simple, happy, comfortable life. But they can't do it with music because they don't get the opportunities. And if we can find a way to break that cycle a little bit and just disrupt it in a way that allows them the opportunity just to earn a simple living, that's really the kind of the more longer term mission. And we will be continuing with our digital content in the short term, but certainly if not in 2021, then certainly in 2022, there's definitely live concerts planned. There's artists that we're working with in India that we want to get out of India and over here again and take them on tour, as well as trying to provide opportunities for the not as well represented members of the British Asian artistic community, because there's tons of them and so many of them are so good. They'll just never get a chance because they don't know the right people and they can't break in. So we're going to try to do something about that. Hopefully,
it's the old tale, isn't it? It's not it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Who you know.
Well, that kind of industry, kind of the whole performing arts industry is kind of where it's probably one of the most strongest. You can tell by just when you watch Bollywood films and you look at the names of all the actors and actresses, they all pretty much have the same surname 9 times out of 10, and you're like, yeah, well, they're all probably related to each other at some stage or another, right? And that's what you see quite a lot of it. So I think that's actually a very, very good kind of thing to be doing, and getting these artists out there for people to actually be able to have the chance to listen to their music and watch them live, etc. And like you said, for them to earn some sort of a living out of it, even if it's not what we see as musicians on TV. Most of them are multi-millionaires overnight. One hit wonders and they're millionaires. But it doesn't always have to be that way. They can have it as a job that they're doing, but also something they really love, and be able to get by on it on a day-to-day basis.
The irony of what you just said there is actually that the ones that you do see on TV are the very, very lucky, very, very, very lucky few.
Yeah.
The vast majority of these guys are scratching out a living every day. They're grinding it out, and if we can make it just 5% easier for them, 10% easier for them, so that the grind isn't as hard as it currently is today, then we'll have achieved something that's actually quite meaningful. And that's very much the intention, more long term for Ragatip. But right now, you have to do things in increments. You also have to do things respectfully, right? And right now, we're trying to build up a name around Ragatip that people can respect. It needs to be around for enough time that people believe in its credibility. But as time goes on, certainly the aim is to sort of broaden our horizons and see what we can do to support the artistic community, in a meaningful way.
Do you know, I don't want to devalue the tone or push it backwards or anything, but obviously doing this all over lockdown, and yeah, okay, maybe I might be a little bit privy to some of the answers to the question that I'm going to ask, but what there must have been hurdles that you've had to jump through to be able to get the project off the ground and to where it is today. And so these are some of the successes that you've overcome yourself. Do you know what I mean? I just want to give you the opportunity to say these things that stood in our way. But what was your experience like hurdles wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the restrictions around COVID have actually, so simple things like, finding a venue to shoot in. I mean, Jack, you know this, right? I mean, the venue we ended up shooting the first lot of content in, we found it the week before because the original venue pulled out on us, right?
Yeah.
And they had their reasons for pulling out, and it is whatever it is. But I think those sorts of things, when you're working on a tiny budget and you don't have, sort of loads and loads of scope, have been very challenging. I think the timescales. I think trying to ensure that also, in the musician's world, the singer is almost like the showpiece, and everyone else kind of sits behind. And we're trying to be a little bit more wider in the way in which we demonstrate. So trying to find the right sort of balances between allowing people to shine, but not necessarily take over. It's an art in kind of managing people to allow that. And we've had some bust ups along the way, like people have been, upset or offended or whatever it might be, as a result of not getting necessarily what they thought they were going to get out of it. But I genuinely do believe that when you approach things with the right heart and the right mentality, eventually kind of common sense prevails and people sort of understand it, and grudges kind of fade away and whatever. So some of those have been challenges. I mean, I've had a personal challenge. I got into this with a partner. Unfortunately, he's had some personal sort of family related circumstances which have meant that he's basically been largely absent. So a lot of the work we've ended up effectively had to do, and people like Kevil have been unbelievable in supporting us in that. But I think COVID restrictions, the hero, the video that we were making for the NHS was meant to be a 2-day shoot where we had all the artists turn up at a location, and then the British government announced the lockdown. So then we ended up having to do it in a COVID secure, mobile recording studio that moved around the country because that was the only way to get the job done. So there's stuff like that, which, now you could argue, was it really necessary? Do we have to do it that way? Couldn't we just have waited? But my point is that we'd made a commitment to the NHS to get something done by the end of March. We had to find a way to try and make it work. And I do believe where there's a will, there's a way. So, I think, there's the usual challenges that come with trying to start up anything from scratch. There have been some specific ones because of COVID. But I think in every one of them, I think if you continue to maintain a viewpoint of we will find a way through this from somewhere, I have found so far, and maybe we're lucky, but I found that something appears, some door opens, some problem, somehow the problem gets solved, musicians pulling out the last minute. I mean, we had a recording session, and two of the musicians were, so Drupti was actually meant to be and she was working a night shift at the hospital, and one of her colleagues tested positive, so she had to self-isolate. We had to cancel her entire recording session. Now, we'd paid for the space and done all of that sort of stuff. It just happens, right? That's just the way it is, so you find a way to resolve it and make it work. If you're approaching things with a pure heart and with a genuineness, I think in the end you're okay.
Yeah, man. It's definitely been an experience and an eye-opener for us as well. Do you know what I mean? Like Kev and I spend a lot of time talking about Ragatip as a project and what's happening, what's going on, where Connor's at, and so forth. And obviously I'll dip into the projects every now and again when there's exports jumping out. But mate, honestly, I really, really am fortunate enough to be able to work on this project with you, and I really have enjoyed, being a part of it. and what it stands for as well. And I'm sure there's plenty more to come in the future because, as you said, you're not about to stop just yet, and it's only just beginning. So
No, exactly. And the more people that can support us on our journey, the better. So, thank you so much for the opportunity as well. I mean, it's very nice.
no, again, thank you for
making
making
a
it count.
little chat. So,
It's nice, isn't it, just to get out of your own space for a little bit, just for a bit of escapism.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've been watching my wife watch rubbish on Netflix otherwise. So, it's the one thing we really struggle with. We have a very small number of TV programs we can watch together, but otherwise we have quite differing tastes when it comes to television. So, if she's watching, I'm not, or vice versa. So. But there's only so much sport she's willing to watch anyway, so there we are.
Is it? Are you the sportsman then? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I
always
like
sports
watching
in the
it.
house?
So I support the Arsenal, unfortunately, I guess.
I was going to say, that means you've missed the game for this as well.
Yeah, I know. That's how committed I am to the cause, man.
What a legend. You know what? He did. He booked in with us almost a month ago, and he's honoured the dating commitment, so fair play to you, man. Especially missing out on your team.
Do you know the score?
He's got a screen open on the other side. Like.
No, there you go. I've dropped off. So you didn't even know that. But yeah, no, it's still. I think United seem to be up.
Are they winning?
Down. But but I'm a big fan of Indian cricket as well, and obviously the IPL starts tomorrow, so that'll keep me occupied for the next 6 weeks.
My office is now going to be my living room from tomorrow.
100%.
Well, it's quite good, right? Because all the games are going to start in the afternoon. So the morning I can get as much work done as possible. Take my laptop downstairs in the afternoon for a couple of hours and just watch the games that are going to... And tomorrow there's a decent game on as well to start it off.
Yeah, it's Mumbai Bangalore, right?
So, yeah. So it'll be it's a good way to kick it off.
It's interesting because I'm the same as you, and what I think is nice about the IPL is also it only lasts sort of 3 hours, right? So for actually, it's not like you spend all day watching cricket. If it's an ODI, that's a full day commitment.
But I did that, right? Because obviously England just finished, and I through the test matches, the one days and the T20s, I'd move my laptop to my living room to just watch.
Mrs. must have loved that.
I can't do it one day now. I don't know how you lost it still that long.
Oh man, I love it.
As soon as India announced they're coming into this country, I have to try and do whatever I can to get these tickets, and I'm going to watch them at least once or twice while they're here. I want to do the IPL. I want to go out to India for a few weeks. I don't want to do the whole 6 weeks because I think I'll just get fed up of traveling everywhere. But I want to do honestly, it will just wind me up, right?
Yeah.
But I think I want to do a couple of weeks, and it's too hot for us. It's way too hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So a couple of weeks is maximum. Stay in a place where most of the games are going to kick. So between Mumbai and Pune, you get quite a few games.
So which team are you behind then?
Mumbai. Yeah.
Are you a Mumbai fan as well?
Yeah. But I think that was mainly because Sachin was there when they started it off, right? I think that's just drawn me towards it. And I don't know if you watched the Legends cricket that was on a couple of weeks back as well.
No, I heard that was an awesome game, right?
Honestly, half of those players you look from the Indian team can probably still play in the IPL today.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way they're hitting, I'm like, bro, you guys are like nearing 40s, mid 40s, and you're able to do that.
During 50s, yeah.
And I'm like, how are you guys doing this and still be able to like run between the wickets? I'm like, man, I can't even run that much, man. You guys are just like killing it out there. So, good on them.
They've been in better shape than you have for a long time.
Well, that's the thing, right? Exactly. Well, no, but there's a couple of them I saw, right? And I was like, you've definitely let yourself go, mate. Like, you know what I mean? Some of the other country teams and look at their players, and some of them are just like, whoa, is that what you've done to yourself? Like, over these years, like, all right, mate, I know you retired, but at least do something to keep fit. But yeah, cricket, football, and to be honest, we talk about this all the time. Jay doesn't go much into the sport.
Do you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing though, yeah? You're not even going to believe it, Bob, but I actually do like 2020.
Oh, you do?
I like the IPL, yeah, man. I'm a CSK fan.
Oh, CSK, yeah?
Yeah, as in like from the first tournament, yeah? Like my dad turned it on. He was like, "Hey, watch this," and like I kind of got into it. It's short, like, and ever since then, like year on year, bro.
That's all right. So you'll be out for a little trip to India then, right?
Might be, man. To be honest, even my dad's up for that trip, bro. Like he wanted to go last year on the 60th.
Let me make you jealous,
and he was going to go, yeah.
Say
you
that
remember
again,
the
Raj.
2011 World Cup, and the one that India won, right? I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if you
remember
remember.
that.
Do you remember
I
the
was at
India-England game, the one
Regency.
that was a tie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that game in Bangalore.
The- oh,
Is it
really?
Yeah, go and watch cricket in India. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
completely different atmosphere, isn't it?
Ah, it's amazing.
What did we just have here? We had the World. No, what did we have here? The 20. No, what did we
2020
just
World Cup or
have?
something. Yeah,
Last year. Last year? Year before.
yeah.
Up and down the country. We ended up in Birmingham. We ended up in Manchester.
No, 2019
Uh,
was the World Cup,
World Cup.
the cricket
Yeah,
World Cup. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Ended up in literally all across the country, just watching as many games as we
Yeah.
possibly could. Oh no, it was the year we went to Mexico, right? Because I had to give up my
How many years
tickets
ago was that,
for.
Bob?
Well, I was gonna
Oh, is
say
it? You had to give out your tickets for that?
I had to give up
Damn.
I had to give up my India versus England tickets
Oh god.
to go to a wedding in Mexico.
Oh god.
It was my sister's wedding as well.
Yeah, I hope she's watching to know what I had to give up for this wedding. Yeah, that hurt. That really hurt me. That was like seriously, how am I gonna give this up? Like I had to do it, book these flights, and then then I got the tickets through the ballot. I was like, that's not fair. It is what it is, but
Happens, innit? Happens.
that's it. So yeah, no, thank you for the reminder for the IPL tomorrow. I know what I'm doing then.
Good.
On that leisurely note, mate, I think we're going to wrap up for the evening. Mr. B, do you have much more to cover out?
Nah,
Any announcements to make?
Well, little man is taking his first steps, so
Is
fun
it?
and games is now.
You're going to run
beginning,
after it
yeah.
now?
I'm gonna have to, aren't I? He's taken those like 2 steps at a time now. He can like stand up for a long period of time on his own. He's taking those little steps. He's doing this whole let me do roly polies like sideways. I'm like, mate, you're right. Like just chill out for a minute, right? Like, all of these things, but he does it when he wakes up at night. So if he wakes up through the night, he's standing up. He's trying to do like roly polies in his cot, and I'm like, you can't do roly poly. You can hit the side, man. But
Soon enough, you're going to wake up and he's going to be in your grill.
honestly, if I'm gonna wake up and I could see him literally making his way up the stairs, I can see himself jumping out of the cot, making his way up the stairs and into our room. I can see him doing it, which is just gonna be so hilarious. I just can't wait for those days to come.
Does that take you back, Raj?
100%. 100%. I think my daughter's first steps were quite late. She was about 14 months. Her first teeth didn't come for ages. Don't really know why she took her time. But yeah, but it's all of those things. You know, the first sleep through the night, the first steps. Obviously the first words that come before that. I think the potty training, when you guys get around to that, is quite fun.
That's the bit I'm not looking forward to.
But that's the one bit I'm not looking forward to.
But I think, as with anything else, I think the more people stress about it, the more sort of difficult it sounds. It sounds so, you know.
It's like
so,
setting yourself up for failure in it because you think you're going to fail, right?
Exactly, and you
Yeah.
stress about it, and you're like, you know, you got all these books that tell you need to ask your kid every 10 minutes if they need to go to take a piss, and it's like, oh, it's all right, man. Like, you know,
One day he's
leave it
going to turn around and be like, "You're taking the piss."
But yeah, so I remember that when we did it the first time round, it was a disaster. And my wife somehow ended up working the weekend that we planned to train my daughter. So it was just me and my kid. The first day we were miserable. The second day, my wife was leaving in the morning, and me and my daughter both looked at her. We're like, "Where are you going, and why are you leaving us alone with each other?" And I think about 2 hours into her having gone, I was like, "The hell with this." Put a nappy on her, and we went out, and we were both happy as Larry. Like it was. You know, it was quite cruel of my wife to leave me on my own trying to potty train my daughter. But there we are.
I can't wait for that, man. At the moment, I'm like, it's hard enough changing your nappy. What am I going to do when you're not wearing a nappy and you're just going to want to go wherever you are? He's so cheeky. He's definitely not even going to tell us. He's just going to do it.
He's going to
clean it up now.
He's going to get you like that soon enough anyway, because right now he's moving. He must not stay still when you change a nappy anyway.
No way. It's the hardest thing in the world, honestly. Like, there's things in life where you think, you know what? You look at it, you're like, this is going to be easy. Changing a nappy on a kid that knows how to move themselves very quickly around. He turns around, he's gone. I'm like, can you come back? The other day, I'm changing his nappy. I've literally pulled half of it off, because he wears the pants, right? The pull-up pants. Pulled half of it off. And he's turned around and he's gone halfway down the living room. I'm like, mate, you need to come back, man. They're like, your nappy's hanging off here. Like, what are you doing? Can you just come back to me? And he's gone. I have to go run after him, pick him up again. And he's quick. So I'm just like, this is just, the speed is just crazy now. I'm like, these kids are just too quick.
Right.
And he's only 10 months. And at 10 months, I'm like, you're a bit too quick for me, man. It's like, you're going to make me forget my guy in gym, chasing after your kid, lose the weight.
Hey, you forget about the pub, mate. You need to make an appointment with a treadmill, mate.
Yeah, no, he's making me do that now, just automatically making me run around after him. So it's all good.
Yeah. I am gonna wrap it up for the night here, boys. I've had an extremely long week, an extremely long day, and I'm flagging a little bit, not gonna lie.
Ready to call it a night.
Yeah, man. Raj, I just want to say again, thank you very much for the time that you shared with us this evening and the experiences and stories that you shared as well. We both wish you every success with the Ragatip project and for all the walks and journeys it will take you on. I'm happy to be a part of that for as long as possible. But no, man, thank you again for spending and sharing this time with us.
No, and thank you again for having me on. And all the best with both your personal endeavours and your professional ones as well.
Thank you. We look to see you soon back on the show again. To give us an update on how it's all going. So yeah, we'll definitely have you back soon.
I think now that we've actually introduced Kev on the podcast and he's got to come on the podcast now, do you know what I mean? So
the only challenge with Kev, I mean, I talk a lot, but I think you wouldn't get a word in it. You just set him off at the beginning and then you just sort of an hour be like, mate, your time's up.
Nah, man, I've learned to manage that over the past few years. So we'll be all right. But all right then, boys, we are going to sign out for tonight.
Take care. See you.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care. Ladies and gents, it's been a pleasure. Thank you and good night.